Nick Sirianni finally began to bloom, turning the Philadelphia Eagles season around. Nick Sirianni very quickly became a joke in Philadelphia. Eagles fans, unable to comprehend how the wheels had so spectacularly come off in the 3 seasons after their Super Bowl win, had watched Doug Peterson, the title-winning head coach, and Carson Wentz, the one-time franchise quarterback, depart and needed a target for their frustration after a 4-11-1 season. Howie Roseman, the general manager blamed in some quarters for the demise since the heady heights of Minneapolis, was a target, and therefore so was the man he brought in to replace darling Doug. It was hard to put a finger on what had gone wrong. Was Peterson at fault for failing to get the best out of Wentz? Had Wentz simply regressed irredeemably? Were Roseman's roster management and draft dealings hamstringing them both? Whatever the answer, Sirianni, arriving into his first head coaching role, did not immediately give cause for optimism that he would be the solution. In his first stuttering press conference, he simply gave plenty of ammunition to those feeling he would be out of his depth. We're going to know. We're going to have systems in place that are easier to learn. All right, complicated to the defense or offense that they're going against, or the special teams group they're going against, but easy for us to learn. Because when we can learn our system, and we can get good at our system, then our talent can take over. Al Pacino. And it was not. Things did not get much better as the Eagles went 2-5 to start the season, with Siranni apparently refusing to trust a run game that had shown some promise while unable to scheme up any kind of passing attack. Then there was Jonathan Gannon's passive defense that meant the Eagles were far too easy to score against, and frustrated their star tackle Fletcher Cox. Needless to say, the antipathy of the Eagles fans to the appointment of the former Indianapolis Colts offensive coordinator only grew louder. But then, as so often it can when a group of sportsmen's pride is wounded, something stirred. Frank discussions were had in the wake of the 33-22 defeat by the Las Vegas Raiders, beginning on the flight home. A lot of us had conversations on that flight, Rodney McLeod, the safety, told. We were able to watch the game together, right there in that moment. Unfortunately, we had 4 hours to do it. That was the moment things did change for the players and the head coach, who, let's not forget, was still getting to grips with being in the top job. Inspired by Jalen Hurts, whose legs are more of a consistent threat than his arm, the team ran for more than 175 yards for 7 straight games, tying a record set by the 1985 Chicago Bears. The result was a 7-3 run that set up a wild card clash on Sunday with the reigning champions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It had required a change in approach from Sirianni, who reined in his pass-first instincts to take advantage of the fact that he possesses one of the strongest offensive lines in the league and a cadre of running backs primed to take advantage. But how did he address his players after the Raiders' defeat? I said the results aren't there right now, but what's going on here is that there's growth under the soil. I put a picture of a flower up, and it's coming through the ground, and the roots are growing out, Sirianni explained to the first team meeting on their return from Las Vegas. The roots are continuing to grow out. Everybody wants to see results. Shoot! Nobody wants to see results more than us, right? We want to see results, too. But it's really important that the foundation is being built and that the roots are growing out. And the only way the roots grow out every single day and they grow stronger and they grow better is if we all water, we all fertilize, we all do our part, each individual coach, each individual player, everybody in the building, that we do our part to water to make sure that, when it does pop out, it really pops out and it grows. The rhetoric was questionable, but the results that followed certainly held up to scrutiny. Jason Bell, the former NFL safety who is now a BBC pundit, says the head coach deserves a lot of credit for turning the tide of the Eagles season, and, probably an even harder achievement in Philadelphia, turning public opinion. From that first press conference, people were all over the guy, Bell says. And what he did was he adjusted to his team. You hear about his ability to communicate with his players and by the way they shifted and changed their identity, that makes me think that that's absolutely what he was able to do. Hey, this is our strength. We push people around up front, we got this great O-line, we got a quarterback who is a threat in the running game and people have to account for them. If they try to stop them, we can get one-on-one situations outside and make throws. And that's their identity, and he morphed into that throughout the season. And that's all down to coaching. It takes a while after that first quarter of the season to kind of figure out what you are, and the quicker you are in that the better. And I think that it took some time for Sirianni because of that, but that's just the NFL. Sirianni's Eagles now know what they are, a run-heavy side who will try to win the battle in the trenches and pound the rock. But the Bucs know it too, and will be ready on Sunday. The one thing about this is, do you really think you can run on the Bucs? Bell says they just paid Vita Vea all that money for a reason. The Bucs' strength is stopping the run. The problem is, as Sirianni and Hurts have shown, the Eagles' plan B is not that of a playoff team. As Bell says, your identity is your identity, and you're not going to change it. So they are going to take away what you do well. And what does Philly do? Well, it's their running game and how they utilize Jalen Hurts. If the Buccaneers do force Hurts to drop back and pass, you don't fancy him to best Tom Brady in a battle of the gunslingers. He hasn't really proved it all year. He can make some big throws to Devonta Smith, that can happen. But their bread and butter is their offensive line is physical, they push people around, and they run the ball. Now their offensive line will show up to play, hopefully. But in the playoffs, I will say this, the one thing that determines your success, more than anything else, is probably the quarterback. So Sunday may come down to Hurts, but it was Sirianni who got them there, and that's nothing to be laughed at.